I'm so happy today to have with me such an amazing guest, such an amazing scientist, Lola. Maria Dolores Martin-Bermudo from Spain, working in Sevilla. Isabel Palacios, also from Spain, but working in Queen Mary, London. And Marta, working in Nairobi, Kenya. And we will talk about science, we will talk about fantasy, a lot of anecdotes. So first, thank you, lady,
Thank you.
having accepted my invitation. And let's start with you, Isa. If you could present yourself and what you are doing as science stuff.
Thank you, Mohamed. Thank you for the invitation. Really exciting. So I'm Isabel Palacios. I'm from Spain, as Mohamed said. In fact, the three of us are from Spain, but we didn't meet in Spain. We all met in Cambridge, and then we all left Cambridge and went to different places. So I went to Queen Mary University of London, where I have my lab, and I do basic fundamental biological research in trying to understand how cells behave during the early stages of embryogenesis, including oogenesis and then embryo development. We do a very biophysical approach in the questions that we want to answer. And then also, as you will know, the three of us are co-founders of Drosophila, which we will talk about a little bit later. But yeah, hi everybody.
Lola.
Hello everyone, thank you for the invitation. It's a real pleasure. And as Isa said, we all met in Cambridge, and then I did my PhD in Spain. So because Spain is a lovely country, not only for science, but for many other reasons, I decided to come back to Spain. And I set up my lab in Seville, in a lovely city that you could visit anytime you want. And there in the lab, we try to decipher the molecular and cellular mechanisms regulating cell migration and invasiveness. And then we use Drosophila as a model system, but we also use a lot of biophysical approach, mathematical modeling. So it's quite a combination of approaches to try to tackle these questions.
Good, wonderful. Marta.
Hi, thank you, Mohamed, for the invitation and the opportunity to see my lovely friends. As you say, we are the three Spaniards here, but we are all in different places. I am currently based in Nairobi. I was a developmental biology trained. I was a postdoc in Isa's lab when I was in Cambridge. But after that, I moved to a few places and finally landed on the African continent, where I was a developmental biologist for a bit, lecturer in the university at the School of Medicine. I'm now on Broadment, focused on research capacity strengthening. And the research that I do is on higher education and research capacity strengthening initiatives. So how to strengthen the continent and low middle income countries. And just a note, we did meet through Cambridge, but I actually met we knew of each other, but had not met physically, or maybe in some party, but I don't think we had ever talked. And we met physically in Uganda.
Good, great. So let me continue with you, Marta. You said that you did some fundamental study and you are doing actually a science career. So in science, was something you want to do as a career, or it was a concours de circonstances? You found yourself in a scientific atmosphere, so you continued with science.
As a career, I guess I thought of it a bit late. I did think of science my main subject from very early on. I really enjoyed learning how things work, figuring out how things interact to make other things work, and especially develop and disease. So I soon in my undergraduate, I focused on molecular genetics, cell biology, and I continued on that line. It was very hard to me after my studies. I would join the lab to do a PhD. I had been an intern since my second year at the university. So it was a very natural step. Then after my PhD, it was a bit more difficult because it was 2007, 2008. Nobody needed to fund anything. We tried very hard at ISA's lab. I had to move around a bit, but I tried for quite some time. I think it's an important area of work, and I liked it. I still miss lab a bit, but I'm glad to use my analytical skills, my scientific view of things, looking for evidence to support decision making, even in a different area right now.
Okay. So then I will ask the same question to Lola. Did you really dreamed about yourself as a scientist, or you had other dream when you were young?
No, I always dream as a scientist. I always dream to do experiments. So at home, we used to live in a big house with a big garden, and I was always doing experiments with the little animals in the garden, the plants, my brother and sisters, everyone. And I was that kind of child that will always ask at Christmas as a present, one of these games where you can do experiments.
Yes.
And because I was very noisy at home, and my dad was a chemist that was also doing research. Okay. So my mother used to send me with my dad to his lab so that there was some quiet and peace at home. So that since I was, I think, 6 years old, I was already in a lab and trying to do things and trying to understand. And I was a person that was always asking questions. But why? Why?
Yeah,
and they will say, and I was not happy with the quick answer. I really wanted to know the why. So I think that all that motivated me to do research, but since I remember, and I'm really happy. I think I'm really, really lucky that my job is something that I really enjoy. So that's something that I advise to everyone.
Isa, what about you?
So I am a little bit like Lola was saying. Maybe not so specific for experiments, but I always like research. And since very young, I like the nature around me. So I was, like Lola, very interested in animals and plants. Neither of my parents went to university. And I lived in an area of Spain that was quite underdeveloped. So it was a bit tricky to decide what to do as a researcher. But I was fascinated when I heard about molecular biology, which in Spain, in our time, was just taking off, really. Yeah. So I decided to follow that. I thought it was really incredible that you could ask questions at that resolution, at that level, and that also, from my point of view, is essential to understand the world around us. And I always wanted to do it. And it's interesting that you asked this question, because we had a discussion with a few friends. We were 10 of us having some drinks, and we are all scientists. And I asked that, and I thought everyone was going to say, yeah, it was my dream job. I always wanted to do it. But half of them wanted to be doctors, actually. They are frustrated doctors. Sorry, my dog. But in my case, yeah, I always wanted to be a researcher, and I just followed that, which was not always easy. I had a huge support from my family, and that, of course, is important. We, Marta, Lola, and I, we may be privileged on that. Whatever we wanted to do, we were supported, and we could do. But yeah, as Lola said, follow your dream if it's possible. Don't just go with the, force that the surrounding is telling you to do.
Yeah. So let me then ask you, because it's since some year now, my favorite question, my favorite fundamental question, and to serve in this positive vibe you gave us. You said that you always love to do science, and you are doing genetics, molecular genetics. You are also using some specific models. All of you, actually. Do you really think playing with genetics in a fly, in a Drosophila, you know, the fruit fly, do you think it's useful for humanity?
Are you asking me, Mohammed?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely. I think it is extremely helpful and extremely useful. It's not what I think. It has been shown over and over again. So basically, it is an important question what you're asking. So I think it is important in science. It doesn't matter which research you want to do, but it is important to think which question you want to answer. Is that an important question in the world around you? And how can you answer it? What is the best approach to be able to answer it? And it is a tricky question because some other model systems, like maybe organoids that now are growing, are more of people may have an easier view of the impact it can have on human health because they are human cells. But on the other hand, it's very limiting what you can actually do with those cells, with those organoids, compare, for example, with Drosophila. Drosophila is a whole organism, so you are studying it in the context of the whole animal with the complexity of what the biology of an animal is when you study a specific process. And it is extremely easy to work with, and you can do basically anything you want to at the genetic and genomic and cell biological and cell biophysical and behavior and so on. So I think the importance of model systems such as Drosophila is that it allows you to do things that other organisms, including the human organoids, do not allow you to do. And at the same time, the processes are extremely conserved, especially those that Marta, Lola, and I have been looking at. They are very basic cell and molecular questions. The molecules we are studying, the cellular processes we are studying are identical in us as they are in Drosophila. So what you learn in the fly can directly be applied by someone else to the human questions. Impressive.
Yeah, and I also think that one of the beauties and the useful of Drosophila is that it can easily incorporate any new technique. Let's say now people are using single cell transcriptomic analysis. You can do easily, directly in Drosophila. Then you want to follow the tumor cell from the beginning. You want to do clonal analysis of tumor cells. You can do it in Drosophila. Drosophila can adapt any new system, any new technology that has been developed or is currently being developed for any other system. With the, and the thing is that it's very easy to do it. It's like, for example, the people discover new techniques that have been applied in zebrafish. Then to apply that, for example, to the mice, it can be very complicated because the mice, you have to work really hard. But in Drosophila, anything that comes out in the market, let's say in that scientific market, can be directly be modified a little bit and then applied straight away to Drosophila. So it's very, very versatile model. Your drug discovery, anything that you can think of, you can also do it with the fly, which I think is really important.
I totally agree with you. But let me ask you again that question, Lola. You talked, both of you, a lot of about the model, but consider me like your the guy who sells the bread in the city, and you come to buy some bread, and they'll ask you, but Lola, do you think really working with fly in a laboratory, is it useful for humanity? Is it useful for our village, for example? This is actually the main question that I would like to ask. Do you think with fly in a lab, is it useful?
Yeah. No, it's funny because that you asked that, because we have been giving lots of lectures to the public, let's say, and I will tell you an anecdote. I remember once I was giving a talk in the north of Spain just to the general public, and I was telling them you can study behavior, you can study, cancer, you can study neurodegeneration, muscular dystrophy, you can study. And then I was showing the people in my videos, all these flies that cannot move properly because they have a muscular dystrophy, or flies that don't behave, that are very aggressive, or flies that are really fat, or flies drinking behavior, homosexuality, anything. And they were all really amazed. But the funny thing is that then a taxi picked me up to take me to the airport, back to my seat. And then the program was being recorded on the radio. And the guy was actually hearing, the taxi driver, while I was in the taxi, was hearing the program. And then he turned around to me and I said, I think that people are really crazy. Can you believe that this woman is talking about understanding the human diseases in flight? And it looks so real. And I was silent. I didn't want to play anything. I wanted to get to the airport safely. But the guy was totally convinced. And this was a taxi driver. But, you know, it's like once you explain to the people and you show the cases, the people get really amazed. And I think it's a pity, but we don't do this more often.
Yeah.
So that the people really know what we are doing.
Yeah. But of course, it's important to remember that there are some limitations. You know, we cannot just directly say, yeah, what is happening in the fly is happening in humans, but it's extremely similar. And the speed and the, you know, financial savings and the license savings and, you know, how easy it is with the fly, how fast it is, what you find about the cells and the molecules, then you can ask the questions maybe in human organisms, that you've got a lot of filtering of unnecessary science just because you've done the fly work. So I think it's good to combine it. I think in an isolated manner is not as valuable, but it helps a lot then the research in the next step. Yeah.
So Marta, again, the same
question.
I
can add a different point of view if you want. Sorry, I think we have a bit of delay. My connection today is not perfect. I wanted to add a different view, since they have given quite a good scenario of the modeling of human diseases. For sure, it's useful for the science. And just to add on that side that it also helps us understanding how to fight mosquitoes or the fruit fly, that is the pests that are eating our harvests, and how to understand the climate changes and how it's going to affect the distribution of species. So it's the impact for humanity goes way beyond the direct translation of the research on human diseases. But now that I work most of my time on research capacity strengthening, and especially with people that have done the MD, so not the frustrated medical doctors that Isa was mentioning, but those like us that chose to go into this area, even though we qualified to go for medical school. It's actually a tool to train researchers that is more useful than anything else that I have seen. The strength of the genetics, how you can see the causality relationships, how the molecules interact and lead to a specific effect, and how you ask the questions to make sure that you are seeing direct interactions or indirect interactions, and all the context that you need to know about the conservation and the limitations that Isa was asking. Doing anything requires so much understanding of the biology of your organism that you're studying, and also humans and others that you may be studying through, like if you're modeling insects or you're modeling humans, or what is it that you're studying. The robustness of the biology and the knowledge that goes around, I think it's a very important tool, and it can help, as it was mentioned, it's cheap, it's easy to grow in the lab. You can do anything, you can test pretty much any experimental technique. So you can show many things, and you can train very versatile researchers that think across disciplines and ask the questions that need to be answered, and then they are able to approach them in a very interdisciplinary manner, I think.
Actually, you inspired me to ask another question. So we have here 3 wonderful scientists, and after a while we found one of them, Lola Martin. She is established in Spain. Isabel established in UK, and you, Marta, in Africa, in Nairobi, Kenya. And now I'm actually, which is a question dedicated to young scientists. Is it useful to be established in a foreign country? And an additional difficulty maybe. Is it easy, I said useful, but is it easy to be established in a foreign country? And is it easy to be established in Africa, and in Nairobi, for example? Because if I will take Tunisia as an example, it will be very hard for a foreign scientist to establish his own lab or his own research in Tunisia because of some bureaucracy, etc. So, was it easy for you, Isabel, for example, to be established in UK, Lola to come back to her home country, and Marta especially, to do science in Africa? I will start with you, Isabel.
So I think the UK, at least up to now, things have been changing, and we can discuss that a little bit. But up to recently, it was the country where, as a foreigner, you could actually get your lab running very nicely. Heavily supporting many different fellowships and positions, and there is absolutely. I would say I've never experienced any negative impact of being a foreigner when applying for jobs, or the other way around. And I think from my colleagues, other lecturers and scientists, I think maybe 30% are British, or the others are from many different nationalities. So I think the UK, also because of English as a language, within Europe has always been one of the easiest, if not the easiest, to establish your career as a foreigner. And that's not only in science, but in many other topics. It's become a bit more difficult now. As you guys may know, we are not in the European Union anymore, so Brexit took place. They're having a harder hand with immigration now. It's a less attractive and less maybe welcoming society, but I still think even with these problems now, it's still much easier, I think, than in other countries to establish your career as a foreigner. But maybe, Lola and Marta can tell, because they experience both the UK and other places.
Yeah.
So what about you, Lola, the fact that you come back to home country?
Yeah, but I have to say that I totally agree with Isa. I first established my own lab in UK, Cambridge, and being Cambridge quite a special place and difficult, it's very, how would you say?
Competitive
place. But still, it was really easy for me. I mean, I think the UK is the place where talent is at the top. I mean, they just want talent and they just want people really dedicated. So I have to say that for me, it was quite easy. I was impressed. They always, welcoming me, my science, and I was so happy there. And they gave me grants. They treated me like, I was doing something special. And I have to say that it was much more difficult for me to go back to Spain. Because in Spain, there were very little position. Spain still doesn't dedicate that much money to research. We are one on the country. We are very low on the list of how much money the country really puts in on research. But because we were in Cambridge and then we really met the right people and then we managed to get a good CV. So we were quite competitive when we came back. So for me, it was not that difficult because I'm Spanish, because I have to say that when I came back, I had to defend my CV and my project that I wanted to develop here in Spain in Spanish. And after nearly 10 years that I was in Cambridge doing science in English, that was for me the most difficult bit. I couldn't express scientifically in Spanish. It was impossible. And luckily now that is changing, because then otherwise you will not be able to recruit foreign people. And now you are allowed to defend your project and why you want to go to a specific institution in Spain in English. But that has changed recently. So I say it's not that difficult anymore, but England is much more easy. Yeah.
So what about you, Marta?
Yeah, well, I have to say that I had problems at my university because I wrote in English. yeah, everyone complained. I had trouble finding reviewers and so on. So things, I'm glad to hear that things have changed. Establishing myself outside of Spain, I can't say it has been difficult, but I don't think it has been a traditional path. I moved to Uganda with a senior lecturer position in a small upcoming institution that now is huge, but teaching at the medical school and setting up a molecular biology lab with the genetics component. And it was a very ad hoc, I don't know, the deputy vice chancellor at that moment was the right person, that project to take off. I came in the right moment and we met and we somehow clicked and started working together on that. But moving from there, I think what moving here did to my career, I guess, once I was there as a senior lecturer, I had to supervise different, like I had to adjust to what the students had to do. I was supervising students from the different biomedical fields, microbiology, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. So I couldn't stick to my own research to say. I managed to supervise a couple of students closer to my field of research, but still I learned to provide support and guidance without the specificity of the high expertise in a particular area. Then after that, I've moved to a different field. I guess I moved, the years I spent as a lecturer, I was doing more and more capacity and so of the research, although I was doing research supervision. And now I focus on research capacity strengthening, and establishing myself here wasn't difficult as a foreigner. Most of the people in the institution are not Kenyans, but they are all Africans. And I actually applied thinking that they were looking for an African and they were not going to call me for an interview. No way. But later on, I learned that I probably got the job because I had started Drosophila with these two ladies here, because that's the kind of person they were looking for. Someone who is looking not only to do the research, but to connect researchers and to provide the support structure needed for us to come up strong in the continent. So I guess linking the two, it has not been a traditional path. Has not been easy, but it hasn't been difficult either. I know of all people that are established here as researchers who have come in different situations, different positions, although I also know that most frequent situation is that these big professors join positions and then they help institutions come up with big research groups and so on. But my situation of growing within the system, I don't know that many people that have taken that.
Good to hear this. So, again, for people who follow us, we have here three wonderful scientists working with Drosophila and trying and doing, not only trying, but doing stuff in Africa. So, girl, let me ask you this question. What Drosophila is, and what do you do with these insects in an African institution? What are you trying to do in Africa with your charity or with your foundation? If you can just introduce for us what Drosophila is and what is the aim behind this, how to say it, this enthusiastic foundation. The floor is yours, ladies. Whatever you
Lola,
want.
you want to start? Yeah.
Who goes?
Okay.
Who goes first?
Okay, I don't mind saying a few words. Drosophila, I remember when it started, it was a girl that was in zoology. What was her name? Laura.
Lucia Prieto.
Lucia Prieto, and then she has just met Sadiq, which was the vice chancellor of the university in Uganda, Kampala International University, and then he asked her to sort of try to. He had been in a course with different animal model system. And then he realized that Drosophila could be a good system for Africa, especially for his university, to do research, quite cheap, powerful, and everything. So he asked Lucia, would you like to come and teach us how to work with Drosophila? And then Lucia said, yes, but I need someone to help me. And then she said to us, and I know two girls that are definitely going to say yes to Africa, we will join you. And that was Isabel, and then Isabel contacted me. And that was the first time. And I don't remember well how Isa contacted Marta, but she will tell you. And then once we were there, we realized how enthusiastic the African people were. It was amazing. From the very beginning, we were like rock stars. No. Everybody wanted to have a picture with us. Everybody was asking questions. Everybody thought that we were amazing. The system was fantastic. They really wanted to learn everything. And then we realized when we started to set up the lab there in Uganda that it was something that was possible. So then we decided, because we invited to that first meeting to people from other countries, not only Uganda. And then they also realized that, in fact, Drosophila was quite a powerful system. For the research in biomedicine, they invited us to sort of organize these workshops at their institution. And I have to say that this is one of the projects that I feel more proud about it. Because if you look where they were and where some of these people, some of these institutions are nowadays using Drosophila, to just go into Nigeria, Drosophila, and you will be amazed. So it has been really rewarded. It has been an amazing experience. And we still believe that it needs to grow. And then we would like to have more money, more people, more time to sort of make this to be, to continue to be successful.
Yeah.
Maybe I can add maybe just two things. So one is that, it is that in this first workshop that we were invited to help, which was a neurobiology workshop, I think using other animals as well, but a lot in Drosophila. There when we realized the amount of talent, great scientists that Africa has that are unfortunately not being able to do research. And that was the main kind of site that inspired us, that if we could somehow suggest what they could be doing in a small like grain of sand of a whole mountain of problems, of course. But so that was the inspiration, that there were so many great scientists. Talent and brain and intelligence has no borders, right? But it does have resources requirements. So that was the idea. Let's try, and it was inspired a bit by Spain. I guess the fact that we are all Spanish. In Spain, Drosophila helped during our lifetime very, very, very much the cell and molecular biology field. Starting with one lab, one person, bringing it over. And Lola was one of the direct trainers of that kind of tree. And Marta as well. I didn't do Drosophila in Spain. I did it when I came to England. But so it started with one lab, and now there are hundreds and hundreds of Drosophilists from Spain, in Spain or abroad. So that was the first thing. And the second is what Lola was saying, that it has to be possible. You have to be realistic what that institution can do, but also ambitious what that institution should be doing. And again, Drosophila can help that. You can be realistic, do quite a lot, but you can also be ambitious and try to expand the research more and more. And that was why we decided to put this really on a foundation, existing group that has a, charity number, a website, and so on.
Yeah.
And what we do is just try to help any researcher that thinks can benefit from working with Drosophila and connect them within Africa, create with the Drosophila Society has now been created, and just carry on training and helping those that are already trained so that research can develop more in Africa.
Marta?
Yeah, I think just to add something different, and Lola, one day we will tell you how I told Isa, you're going to Africa and you're not taking me.
Yeah.
You weren't there, but the way that happened, it takes too long for this interview. I think there is a very serendipitous manner that I should not have been there, but I was there. But anyway,
I remember.
She didn't know I was going to be there either. I surprised her, and then she did. She surprised me back. But I think what I can add is that somehow, and now that I'm working on research capacity strengthening, I see how this is at the core. What Drosophila has helped to do is to gain the institutional support for the researchers who want to do research with flies. And the reasons why that is difficult are very varied, and many of, like, it's a mountain of factors, from people not knowing the tradition that actually flies have been used for long to do very impactful research, to, as you were saying, the general difficulty to explain the society why you are investing in it, right, and why it is important. But I think Drosophila has managed to bring that support to a few groups, and it has made a difference there. From the talks that Lola was mentioning, not to the general public, but we have done a few seminars in different places. It helps them get in that institutional momentum. And for some of them, it has changed really a big deal since we visited the first time, through the support that they get after the workshop and following up mentorship afterwards, international cooperation, collaborations that they may get afterwards, a small grant here and there. So it's made a difference, particularly on that angle, I think, of getting the institutional backup that the local researchers need.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that I have to say that we were also amazed by how the international community, not the African one, really wanted to participate. So we have received so many comments from everyone saying, this is an amazing project. How can I help?
Yeah.
And many people from many different countries, including the States, France, Germany, UK, many different places, have come for free to help us in the workshops, and everybody's really looking, trying to help. Everybody's like, because they all believe that it's going to help the science in Africa. So it's not just that we believe it, it's that many people believe it, which is good.
Super. So maybe to end this wonderful interview, I would say not interview, but wonderful talk, wonderful chat. What can you say to young scientists, to young students, and also to normal citizens or normal people seeing us? What kind of words you can address to them? Lola.
So I would just like to tell the young people, as Isa was saying, to follow what you would like to do. And then one of the things that I think that young people may be a little bit different from what we were, is that they want a very immediate response. So they do something and they want to get something really quick. And science is not about that. Science, like everything else in life, is that you have to work step by step. You have to ask your questions. You have to dedicate time. And in the end, you will get a reward. But the reward is not just one prize. The reward is every day. Because you doing science, doing research, you learn every single day, you learn something. And that's what I think is the beauty. And then, the young people are very used just to do like this, and then they get it immediately. They get it on internet, they can get a boyfriend, they can get clothes that they like, they can get everything just with a click on the phone. And with research, you have to be patient, but then you would love it. And then, and for the public, the general public, I will tell them to please put pressure on our politicians that research is really needed. in all sciences, engineer, biomedicine, in everything. A country that does research is a country that, move forward. That is something that everybody knows. So we should convince our politicians to invest more.
Marta, what kind of word you can say to young people?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, as Lola has said, in the general public, for sure, the idea of science being important has to be voiced. I think if the COVID pandemic has shown us something, is that when we put our minds to work on a problem, we can really tackle it. And science evidence is important, that decisions made based on evidence yield results that we can all see, even on the streets. You don't have to be a lab rat like us. And to young people, yeah, you have to be patient and you have to be perseverant. But I think if you have the dream, if you do like it, it is possible. You just have to find your way. Each of us found the path in a different manner, and we built our own career with different stops. I don't think there are two scientists in the world that have exactly the same path. And you can find the way to dedicate your time to the things that you're really passionate about. I think the best thing of this area of being a researcher is that you really put in your time in what is your passion, in what you really want to do. It's like being an artist in a sense. You're doing what you want. But then it's also a very rewarding career, because you know that you're helping, even if your research is basic, you know how important it is for humankind in general.
Isabel.
Okay. Yeah, so many things I would like to say. Maybe a suggestion first, and then I can say the other things. I wonder, of course, what the questions of the audience that is going to hear this interview are actually. What are they thinking about? Because maybe that could. So I wonder whether, Mohammed, there is a platform for them to send questions and we could reply as well, specific ones. That's one thing I would like to say. I don't know whether it's something you'd be interested in. But in general, maybe to add to what has been said, is the fact that, be ambitious, be passionate, be realistic as well. Be, especially for women. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's a problem still here in Europe, in England, in Spain, and in Africa. You've got to choose a right partner. That's key. If you don't have a supporting partner ready to take on the family when it's needed, all of us here have families, it will be exhausting and you will burn out. And it happens. Even nowadays, women start, university, great, PhD is still great, and then slowly at the post and group leader, and then when you get to professors, it's basically non-existent, even at my university still. So it really goes down, and I think it's just you're burned out by having to run a family and having to run your career. So find a partner that supports you. That's really key. And deal with the guilt. We have often gone to Africa for 10 days, leaving our kids behind, and 2-3 years old, and you just do it, and you feel guilty, and you just deal because you really think that what you're doing is important, and that you're going to be, in any case, a good role model for them. So, choose a good partner. And I think, what they were saying is not a career that you have to do for money. But again, if you want to then become, an entrepreneur in the science field and make money through that, then also do it. Just whatever, gets you going and you're feeling passionate about, do it. And build networks, work with your friends. So this is an example, Lola, Marta, and I, is the nicest thing in the world. Have good ideas, go for them and do them with your friends. Just chat to them about what you may want to do and if they're interested, and often the best comes from those discussions. Yeah.
What a wonderful chat it was. So again, thank you very much, ladies, for this wonderful chat and wonderful atmosphere. And I hope that people that will show this talk will be very, very inspiring. Again, thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, c'était bon ça, t'as vu? On remercie tout le monde. On revient bientôt. Abonne-toi, jette ton pouce, partage, fais ce que t'as à faire.